ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our weekly session. Sorry for shifting it from Saturday to Sunday due to some unavoidable circumstances. But we shall continue on our journey of chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. Now we saw in verses 20, 21 and 22 the foundation of knowledge, that how our knowledge can be sattvic, can be rasic, and can be tamasic. So, if we have sattvic knowledge, naturally our activities will also be impacted and they will be sattvic. If we have rasic knowledge, obviously all our karma will also be impacted and our activities will be rasic. And so is the case of tamasic. So, the foundation of what Lord Krishna will be explaining further down is based on these three verses. Now, let us take an example. Now, if you have, for example, correct location of your friend where you are going to meet him, then you can reach that location and you can meet him. But if you don't have correct location, then you will be somehow getting, lost on the way and will try to find your way out here and there. So, if you have the correct knowledge of things, then your activities will be well planned and well designed. But if you don't have the correct knowledge, then obviously your activities cannot be well planned. So, knowledge is the foundation of the karma we do. Knowledge is the foundation of how we do that karma, the activities we perform, how do we perform. So, if we believe that the Supreme Lord is indivisible, He is present everywhere, though He appears to be divisible, He appears in different forms, in different names, but He pervades the entire universe, then that knowledge will impact our karma in a very positive way, in a very sattvic way. But if we believe that everybody is different, all this diversity which we see in the universe is actually representing different what you call existences. Like my existence is different than your, and your existence is different from rest. Then that knowledge is a divisive knowledge. That knowledge is the knowledge which will lead to you and me, and therefore the greed will come into play, the selfishness will come into play, the hatred will come into play, because I will try to do better for myself and not so good for the rest. So, this is the feeling which actually pervades when you have what we call Rajasic knowledge. And Tamasic knowledge is obviously confined to the body, and you do only for whatever you do for body comforts and nothing else. So, these are the three fundamentals on which our karma will depend. And this is how we now start the next verse, verse number 23. Verse number 23 says, जो कर्म शास्त्र विधि से नियत किया हुआ और कर्तापन के अभिमान से रहित हो तथा फल ने चाहने वाली पुरुष द्वारा बिना राग और द्वेष से किया गया है, वह सात्विक कर्म माना गया है. Now, there are many things here. Shastra Vidhi se niyat. We discussed this earlier. The things which have been, stated by the saints, by the people who were in union with the Supreme, like Lord Krishna, or like some others, who have stated their knowledge, and that knowledge has been collected in the form of a book, that is Shastra. So that Shastra is what was experienced in union with the Supreme by some selected saints. That is Shastra. So if we do our work according to what has been prescribed in Shastras, then that is one aspect of Sattvic Karma. And to this, we should also add that we should also do our what we call essential karma, the karms which are required to be performed for the necessities of life. Those should be done in accordance to the law of the nature. We should not go against the law of the nature. If we go against the law of nature, then that would be not niyat karma. That would be unprescribed or not the correct way of doing things. So the first thing is that we should identify what is doable and what is not doable. The second thing is kartapan ke abhiman, that you do not assign to yourself that you are the doer. You do not take pride, or you do not take the ego that you are the doer. And then the third one is that you are not desiring to have an outcome according to your own wishes, but you accept the outcome which is given by the samasti, which is given by the universe. And then without rag and dvesh, that is without attachment and without hatred. Now these are the four essential qualities of sattvic karma. This will follow if we follow the verse number 20, that we look the whole universe pervaded by the supreme force who pervades the entire universe, and he is everywhere. Then we will not do anything wrong. Firstly, we will do things which are doable. Secondly, we will not assume that I am the doer. Thirdly, we will not, expect a particular result, but we will accept the result which is given by the supreme or by the samasti. And then there's no reason to have hatred for anybody or special attachment to anybody, because the whole universe is pervaded by the supreme. So if we have the knowledge according to verse number 20, then verse number 23 will automatically happen. We don't have to do anything to make it happen. It will automatically take place because of the right knowledge which we have. So knowledge becomes the foundation of the karma which we are doing at any moment in our life. Now verse number 24. परंतु जो कर्म बहुत परिश्रम से युक्त होता है तथा भोगों को चाहने वाले पुरुष द्वारा या अहंकार युक्त पुरुष द्वारा किया जाता है वह राजस कर्म कहा गया है. नाउ this particular verse follows verse number 21. In verse number 21, we understand that every living being in this universe is different, and I am different. So I do things according to my own selfish interest. Then the problem arises. Because then you are having a sort of conflict with the rest of the universe, and you are fighting for your own betterment. And then you naturally enter into an area which requires some sort of struggle against others and against the nature. So then it involves parishram, it involves extra effort to make this happen. And then obviously when you are putting in so much effort, then ego comes into play, because you feel that I am separate from rest of the world, and therefore the ego automatically plays its role. So that kind of activity becomes rajas. Now Kabir has also mentioned it in a very simple, in his own style, that जो चीज whatever we get in life, if we get it सहज, जो सहज में मिल जाए वो दूध सम है, दैट इज दूध के समान, दैट इज द बेस्ट. और जिसके लिए थोड़ा स्ट्रगल करना पड़े वो पानी के समान है, इट्स लाइक वाटर. एंड जिसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रगल करना पड़े वो खून के समान है, दैट्स लाइक becoming like the blood of others. So this is actually the meaning here. Kabir has put it in own very rustic and very what you call rural way, which is very easy to understand. And that is what verse number 23 said, that things which are easily available, things where you do not fight, things which are in accordance to the law of the nature, things where you don't even believe that you are doer, it's just happening. And then happening means you are getting it without much effort. And that is what Kabir said, सहज मिले सो दूध सम. तो वो दूध के समान, दैट इज द बेस्ट थिंग. और जिसमें थोड़ा परिश्रम करना पड़े, दैट इज राजस, दैट इज लाइक वाटर. एंड जिसमें बहुत ज्यादा करना पड़े वो दैट इज लाइक ब्लड, दैट बिकम्स द तामस. नाउ हियर इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड that all the things which happen on their own without much effort, they are the best in life. Like, look at our own body system. We feel hungry, we eat. If you don't feel hungry and you eat, you get into trouble. You feel sleepy and you sleep, you are fine. But if you don't feel sleepy and you try to sleep, you are in trouble. Eh? If you want to, you know, work to make your own blood, how will you do that? It happens automatically inside your system. You take your breathe in and out without any effort, it happens automatically. If you are supposed to take the breathing in and out, perhaps you will forget. And some of us will die in the process. So the most important things happen on their own, whether it is breathing in and out, whether it is hunger in the stomach, whether it digestive system inside our body, whether it is formation of blood and bones and neurons and flesh and all that, they happen automatically. And the sleep happens automatically. Our own growth from childhood to adulthood to old age, this also happens automatically. So these things are, we are not doing anything to make them happen. So this is the feeling in verse number 23, that we are doing things in accordance to the Shastras without any expecting any outcome, without any feeling of that I am the doer, and without any hatred and without any attachment. Now that is automatic process, and that process is simple but very very sweet and very nice. So sahaj mile so doodh sam. And in the second one, you have to make a lot of effort because you have to fight against the entire world. Because it is you versus the rest. So how do you accumulate your wealth? You have to fight against the rest. So you have to make a lot of effort. You have to apply all your intellectual prowess. So that is another effort you have to do. And then naturally, when you are making so much effort, you develop a sort of ego that I'm the one who is doing it happen, making it happen. So that ego comes into play and that plays its own role. And that becomes rajas. It becomes like snatching things from others. It's not happening on its own, but you are making it happen. So ego comes into play, and the what you call struggle happens, the conflict happens. Actually, it's a war which happens. Like you are acquiring something for yourself. So that is Rajas karma. And then the tamas come, verse number 25. जो कर्म परिणाम, हानि, हिंसा और सामर्थ्य को न विचार कर केवल अज्ञान से आरंभ किया जाता है वह तामस कहा जाता है. अनुबंधम क्षयम हिंसा, मतलब वी डोंट नो व्हाई वी आर डूइंग, We don't know how much harm it can cause to others because we don't know why we are doing. We are not concerned about the consequences. We are not concerned about the violence it would lead to. We are not even considering our own abilities, our samarthya, manveksha, che porusam. We are not even considering what is my capability, whether I am capable of doing it or not. So, the things where you are not analyzing your capability, where you are not considering the consequences, what can happen because of this action, where you don't mind harming others, where you don't mind taking recourse of violence, then that kind of activity is happening in total darkness. It is darkness, and that is why it is tamas. Tamas basically means also darkness. That your knowledge is actually hidden in darkness. It is having the what you call cover of the darkness, which is not allowing you to take the right decision. And that kind of activity is tamas. I know many people like the other day I keep meeting this kind of people who are eating, for example, what you call gutka these days. Now, those people, they don't know why they are eating. They don't know what would be the consequences. They don't know whether it will lead to their ill health. They are doing it without realizing that that money could have been useful for the welfare of the family. Now, without considering the consequences, in darkness, they keep eating it and they fall sick and they kill their own health. So, this is an example of Tamas Act. Now, I know some people who are, you know, becoming very obese. I keep telling them that, you must take care of your health. Health is your wealth. The first pleasure in life is your good health. The body is the instrument of journey of life, and therefore this journey cannot be done properly if your body is not in good shape. Still, they do not care. They keep eating fast food, they keep drinking heavily, they don't sleep on time, they keep overeat all the time, they eat on the wrong timings. If they take lunch, they will take at 4 o'clock, they take dinner at midnight. Now, all these things are happening because they do not know what they are doing. They do not try to understand the consequences of their actions. They do not uh, you know even examine their own health, that how it can hurt their own health. So these are the activities which are driven by tamas. You will find many people in many fields of life who are engaged in these kind of activities, like a people who is a thief, engaged in theft. Now he doesn't know what is he doing. The consequences, he knows one day he will be caught and he will be behind bars, but he doesn't care. So these activities, a person who kills others, a person who is abusing others, we see on TV debate these days people abusing each other. Now all this is driven by tamas. They do not know what they are doing. They do not consider the consequences of their actions, and they are not even considering whether they are doing violence in the process, because words are also a form of violence. It's not only the physical violence, but in fact, the violence caused by words can last for years and years. So, all these things, the person who are not concerned with the outcome, who don't care whether it will hurt somebody else, they don't care whether it is violent or non-violent, they don't even consider their own capabilities, and they undertake those activities. Those are the activities which are driven by tamas, and that is why they are called tamas karma. Hmm? So, this is how the verse number 25 is. So, 23 3, 24, and 25, they define the sattvic karma, the rasic karma, and the tamasic karma. Now, let's go to verse number 26. In the next three verses, Lord Krishna is defining the karta, the sattvic karta, the rasic karta, and the tamasic karta. Now, this is again based on verse number 20, 21, and 22, because that knowledge is the one which ultimately drives these six verses, the 23 to 25 and 26 to 28. Now, verse number 26. जो कर्ता संग रहित अहंकार के वचन न बोलने वाला, धैर्य और उत्साह से युक्त तथा कार्य के सिद्ध होने और न होने में हर्ष शोकादि विकारों से रहित है, वह कर्ता सात्विक करता है। मुक्त संगोहनम वादी, संग मीन्स यू आर नॉट अटैच्ड, you are detached completely, whatever may happen. You are not considering yourself a doer of the action. You are considering as instrument in the hands of the Supreme, and that instrument is driven by the Supreme, and you are just acting according to that requirement. So that is a sang, but here it is sang. Sang means you feel that I am the doer. Then you are doing things without sang, that is one, without attachment. Secondly, ahankar, that you are not the doer. You don't have that feeling that I am the doer. And then dharyutsa samanvita hai. That is, you are performing that activity with lot of courage, lot of enthusiasm and energy, and you are not concerned what the outcome will be. Like take a cricket player. He is doing the batting. He is doing the batting with all his might, his all courage, his strength, his energy, but without an outcome, without expecting that whether I'll make 50 or 100 runs, doesn't matter. Whatever runs I make doesn't matter. It's not important, but I should do my work with full strength I have at my disposal. Now, that approach, and then the approach that he is not the doer, but he has been sent there to do. He is part of a larger team, and he is just performing his duty sitting there or standing there. So that is what the approach is. The approach is that you are not attached, then you have no ego, you are not expecting an outcome, still you are performing the activity with all your strength, all your courage, all your energy. And once you receive the outcome, you are neither getting very happy nor very unhappy. Whatever outcome comes, you accept it. That karta is sattvic karta. Now, these verses are very subtle verses. These verses give us very simple, I say, method to analyze our own conduct. These three verses earlier and three verses now, they give us a very simple way of analyzing our conduct. When I conduct myself, whether I'm doing a sattvic act or not, sattvic karma or not, whether I'm doing a tamasic karma, whether I'm doing a rasic karma, you can easily analyze by these factors which are given here. Similarly, as a karta, whether I'm a sattvic karta or whether I'm a rasic karta, again you can analyze. If you are considering yourself as doer, then you are not a sattvic. Then you are only considering as an instrument of the Supreme, then yes, it is so. So there are five things here: that you do not consider yourself as the doer. You are not having ego. If you do not consider yourself doer, then ego will automatically disappear. Or if the ego is disappearing, then you will not consider yourself as doer. So both things work together. Then you are doing it with all the courage, all the energy, all the enthusiasm, and then you are accepting whatever result comes at the end. So if we follow these, you know, uh, what you call components, or these symptoms, or these, you know, what you call ingredients, then these ingredients will make us sattvic karta. So let us try and do become sattvic karta whenever we can. So if we are analyzing ourselves that the karma which I did was sattvic, whether I am doing it in a sattvic way, then these verses 23 and 26 will help us in analyzing ourselves. So this is verse number 26, how we can become sattvic karta. Then verse number 27. जो करता आसक्ति से युक्त रागी कर्म फल, that is the Sanskrit verse. प्रेपसुर, रागी कर्म फल प्रेपसुर, लब्धो हिंसात्मको असुचि, जो करता आसक्ति से युक्त कर्म के फलों को चाहने वाला और लोभी है, तथा दूसरों को कष्ट देने के स्वभाव वाला, अशुद्ध आचरण वाला और हर्ष शोक से लिप्त है, वह राजस करता है. Now, this is very clear here. Asakti se yukt. If you are attached to the act, then yes. Then, fal ko chahne wala, I desire, I want to be rich, I am engaging in activity of this business because I want to be rich, then you are rajas. Lobby means that once you have got something, you want to get more and more. Your desires don't come to an end. They continue to grow. You get, for example, 10 lakh rupees, now you want to become a crorepati, you want to get 1 crore, and then you want to become 10 crores and things like that. So the greed continues to grow. And then दूसरों को कष्ट देने वाला. Now when you have fight, when you have you and me, that I have to become rich and this fellow, I have to exploit that fellow, then naturally there would be a fight. So that fight means that you have to give, create problem for others so that you can benefit out of it. So this is happening every single day in all activities, whether it's business or politics or to some extent even in sports, which is very surprising, but it is happening. So because sports has also become highly commercial now, highly driven by what you call money. So firstly, आसक्ति से युक्त कर्म फलों को चाहने वाला, that you are desiring to have some outcome of it. Then you become greedy because once you experience some success, you want to duplicate it again and again, so you become greedy. And then you don't care if others are put to trouble because of that. And then asuddha acharan, that is asuchi. Asuchi means that you do not necessarily think that you are conducting well. You don't mind doing certain, telling lies and doing something wrong. You know in yourself that you are doing wrong, but you don't mind, like many people do. And after a while, it becomes a habit. They don't even distinguish what is wrong and what is right. In the beginning, you get that feeling that, yes, I am doing wrong. But once you start doing wrong every time, then that becomes your habit and you don't even realize that you are doing wrong. So that happens over time. And then whatever you get, either you get pleasure out of it. If you don't succeed, then you get unhappiness. So these are the character of a karta who is rajas, that who is attached, who is expecting outcome, who becomes greedy, who does not mind creating problem from others. His conduct is not very pure, and he gets either happiness or unhappiness when the outcome comes from that particular activity. So that is the kind of karta which is called rajas karta. So there is a very subtle difference between this verse number 27 and verse number 23 because they are related. In fact, the verse number 21, 23 and 27, they are related in a way because knowledge is the foundation of the act we do, and act is the foundation of kartapan we do. So they are all interrelated. Then verse number 28. जो कर्ता अयुक्त शिक्षा से रहित, अयुक्त है, प्राकृत है, स्तब्ध है, जो कर्ता अयुक्त शिक्षा से रहित, घमंडी, धूर्त और दूसरों की जीविका का नाश करने वाला तथा शोक करने वाला आलसी और दीर्घ सूत्री है, वह तामस कर्ता कहा गया है. Now, there are many qualities here too. Whether you consider them negative or positive, that's a different thing, but there are some attributes here. Ayukt. Ayukt means he doesn't know what he is doing. That is what we saw in, because he is under darkness. So he doesn't know what he is doing. So we saw that in verse number 25 also, that he acts in darkness. It is also in verse number 22 that he doesn't know what he is doing. So verse number 22 is the foundation, and then verse number 24, and then verse number now 29. No, sorry, 28. Yeah, 28, then 25, and 22. These are related. So it starts with what we call the knowledge which is tamasic. If the foundation is tamasic, naturally the karma which will come out of that foundation will also be tamasic. And the doer who is doing all that activity will also be impacted by the tamasic activity. So this is emanating from verse number 22. The person who doesn't know what he is doing, he is behaving in a very, what you call in a manner which is completely irresponsible, which he doesn't know what he's doing. He cannot analyze his own capabilities. He cannot analyze the impact of the act on others and on his own self. So that kind of act ultimately leads to what we call tamsik karta. So now tamsik karta is ayukt. Ayukt is first is he is in darkness. He doesn't know what he's doing. So his ability to take a correct decision is in doubt. That is the first quality. Then secondly, shiksha se rahit. Shiksha se rahit, naturally, it is the same thing in a different word, that he is not well educated, and therefore his decisive power, his power to decide, is not correct and is not rational, is not driven by shastras. Then Gamandi, naturally, this kind of person, he who doesn't understand anything, he is not enlightened, he is acting in total darkness, then he will be very, very, he is not only Abhimani, he will be Gamandi, he is beyond that. Gamandi is arrogant, Abhimani is egoistic. So egoistic is in rasic quality, but Gamandi, the arrogant, is in the quality of tamsic. Durt. Durt means, his behavior is completely irrational and he harms others. His behavior in such a way that it includes telling lies, hurting others, causing harm to the society, everything which is in the wrong direction. So that is धूर्त. And दूसरों की आजीविका का नाश करने वाला. That it doesn't mind even, what you call taking away the livelihood of others. People who are earning their own livelihood, it doesn't mind hurting them and depriving them of their legitimate livelihood. That happens because of the excessive greed this kind of person has. And then Alsi and Dirk Sutri, that is, he is also lazy, he doesn't care. And he is Dirk Sutri means that, he keeps prolonging his things. I'll do it today, tomorrow, day after. Dirk Sutri is a long trail which continues in time in the future. So that kind of activity, he keeps postponing those things again and again and again. That kind of activity, these all of these things may not be existing at the same time, but some of them will exist in some way when a person is tamasic. Tamasic karta, when he is there, then at least some of those attributes will be there. Not necessarily all of them, but some of them definitely will be there. So the person is absolutely irrational. He's not well educated. His education is not based on good knowledge. He becomes very arrogant. He is very harmful to the society. He can tell all kinds of lies, and then he doesn't even mind destroying the livelihood of others. And he, you know, gets shocked when he's not successful, and then he is very lazy and keep postponing things for tomorrow. So this is the kind of activity which are performed by a tamasic karta. If the karta is tamasic, then he will do these kind of things. Now, if we can analyze, I don't know, any one of us will fall into that category, but many of us fall into the category of verse number 27, that we have greed and we want to accumulate wealth. We want to look for the outcome of our action, and we become happy when the outcome is positive. When we become outcome is negative, we become unhappy. So those are, many of us have those qualities, but verse number 28 is meant only for those who have actually become who are living in total darkness. They have no sense of knowledge. The knowledge is far, far away from them. They are living in total darkness. So that those are called tamsik karta. So in these six verses, first three verses, tamsik karm, rasik karm, and sattvic karm. Then the next three verses, tamsik karta, rajasik karta, and sattvic karta. These six verses, they follow the verse 20, 21, and 22, because the knowledge is the foundation of the action and knowledge is the foundation of the doer. If my knowledge is sattvic, then I cannot do, rajasic karma. I will do sattvic karma, and naturally my kartapan will also be sattvic. So if we can, that is why when I was, talking about verse 20, I was saying that this lays the foundation of our pure conduct. This lays the foundation of our good conduct, through which we can actually uh, purify our actions, and we purify our own body, mind, and intellectual through that process. So that can happen if we can concentrate a little more on verse number 20, and that will lead us to all the good actions. So this is where we will stop today. This is then the next verses are continuing in the same direction, but they are somewhat different. The basic uh, emphasis of this chapter is to give us the practical hints that how we can become sattvic, how we can purify our actions, how we can purify our intellect, how we can purify our thinking process, our mind, and then how we can go beyond the three karmas and become one with the Supreme. So this is the purpose of this, and this is very practical chapter, gives us very good hints based on very, very simple attributes which we can analyze very easily in our own personality. So thank you very much. And once again, I'm sorry for rescheduling this from Saturday to Sunday. Thank you.